EU on day number 1. So let's send it over to our casters one last time to wrap things up here in EU. Take it away, casters.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. And as they just said, this is the last game of today of heat number 1 here in EU. Don't forget, the other 3 heats are also ongoing, and we'll have 6 more matches tomorrow for these trios to try and push into the top 8. My name is Sundown, joined here by Sancho West, and we'll be taking you through the last-minute action, and we'll see who will be able to build up a little bit of momentum heading into the back half of the competition.
And one of the things to bring up here, Sundown, is the top 8 advance, of course. And taking a look at the top 8, out of the 8 trios that are there, only 3 of them have not got a victory royale. You know, it's just showing you how powerful the victory royale is here in this heat. A victory royale would pretty much solidify your chance of getting into that top 8. More than 55% of Benji's elims are within an AR compared to the EU average of 38%. So Benji choosing to fight with the distance, but I think that's just more about in-game situations, considering that once you take height, you're just beaming everybody down below, Sundown.
Well, I'm also interested on whether or not that's from just particularly this FNCS or all of the FNCS, because I would say this FNCS in particular, he hasn't gotten into late games as much as he probably should have, or compared to a lot of the other EU players. They've historically been pretty much kept out of them and scoring lower points, so you don't really get those opportunities to have as many as those box-to-box big eliminations. But you can see here now, Savage actually taking a little bit of fire. I'm going to assume that's either from the henchman going on or Dr. Victor Von Doom himself getting a little aggro, but he has more than enough utility across this domain to be able to work that back on up.
Yeah, you can't mess with the heroes, the Marvel heroes and villains that are out there scattered about the entire map. I am still crossing fingers for Wolverine to reign his head, to show up and cause some chaos. Of course, this is day 1 of Heat 1, game 6. We still have another 6 games to go. It's going to happen tomorrow, though, so all our competitors are going to take a break, think about what they've done, make adjustments, game plan. Star 6 and iDrops and Vettel have been making crazy adjustments. They basically qualified dropping in Lazy Lake, and now they made this adjustment of dropping down here in the Misty Meadows. They do have this completely uncontested. If they do advance to the grand finals, we've already been seeing in the other heat, Sundown, that they're going to have some company in that Clement trio who is doing really well in their heat.
I'm pretty sure they've played mostly a Misty Drop. They may have played over at Lazy one of the weeks, but I think otherwise most of the time they've been practicing towards here, and I think in particular for this heat, it makes sense. I think the one benefit for Misty is that if you aren't aggressively contested, if people are comfortable enough to split either a north-south or an east-west side and give up some of the fishing spots and give up a little bit, it's one of the few POIs that, because of the excess fish that are around and the excess utility, and it is central, and its access to Slurpy Swamps, that you can reasonably still have enough loot and enough shields to get out of there, but it makes it really, really, really difficult, as we are going to see what I believe is our first, like, super eastern zone pull off of the start here, Sancho.
And the tour for our top of the board continues as Flick and Nos and Gamma Gaming's Thomas HD are sitting in first place. And yes, we saw a West Coast pull in the previous game. Now we're seeing the East Coast, and that's just going to give Anas Flick and Thomas HD a lot of time to kind of set up their kind of game plan here, find everything that they need. And this is when the zone goes into your backyard. We already seen Mongrel and Mitro kind of take advantage of that, and it's so interesting to see this right here, right now. Sweaty Sands becoming a hot spot, considering the success that 4ZR's trios had in our qualifiers. And we see Kaspersa, Zini, and Flixie, they're doing their best to try to stop the slide that they're having right now. They were in the top 3, and they're slowly sliding down into that danger bubble area. And they're in the 6th place at the moment. And I'm just looking at a way, they're like 10 places away from slipping out of the top 8, like 10 points.
Yeah, and it seemed like such a fairy tale story. Again, they were second after the second game, kind of third after that third, and then just
they had a victory royale.
Falling down. And it makes it that much more difficult. And now fighting here in Sweaty Stance, but that's Versa, and we've seen they have plenty of troubles getting out of this early game. Shakedown coming through, as well as the damage to make sure they end up getting all of that Storm Surge. It's something we've talked about. Have to min-max when you're given the ability to, because we've seen teams be put under pressure from it. So a little bit of room to breathe. That's so far the first point they have scored since their elimination 3 games ago. So, I mean, they need to kind of step it up a little bit if they want to stay onto that top 8 pace, because particularly once we get into the games tomorrow, that's where all the pressure lies. If you're not able to get into that top 8, then your last chance is that wild card match. And I promise you, no one wants to end up fighting in that wild card match where you can end up potentially against someone who has the capability of doing what Mongrel does. And that stat's gross, Sancho.
Absolutely. When Mongrel gets at least 4 elims, he wins 90% of his games. And to kind of reflect that stat into other sports, that's like saying if, LeBron James gets a triple-double in any of his games, then most likely his Laker team will win. I'm not quite sure what's the kind of analogy for across the pond there. You might want to help me out there, Sundown.
I would say if Messi scores a brace, then Barcelona probably wins in 90+% of their games. There you go. For a brace, for those of you who don't know, that's 2 goals in soccer. So 1 short of a hat trick, because I promise you, if Messi scores a hat trick, they probably win the stat goes up to 90+8%. But Mongo very close to that Messi-esque feeling in Fortnite, the one who, no matter what the tables are, whether it's the solo World Cup qualification and the huge clutch he did there, or those mid-ground kind of runs he does in those monumentous moments, if he is able to get the momentum rolling and he's kind of feeling himself and he has that confidence, he is straight up potentially the most dangerous and skilled player in Fortnite. But now we're going to hop back on board here. Benji, Lecce, and Savage, they're going hunting again, but not necessarily catching the same fish they caught the first couple of times. They're going to have to go a little bit more northern for their catch.
Absolutely, and maybe LeBron James should change his name to LeBron Games. I mean, I know he's King LeBron, but LeBron Games sounds awesome. As Savage and Benji and Lecce are trying to put the games together already with a monumental victory royale that's kind of shifting the tide. They doubled their output for the day in just one pop-off game. And we know every trio out here has those pop-off moments, and we're all twiddling our thumbs. I mean, Shia was scared, and he was saying he was nervous. I was scared. Sundown, you were saying, nah. These boys got it. And right now, they're showing and proving to let everybody know, especially out there in the Twitterverse, chill. We got this, bro. We got this.
And Nikeva just got absolutely worked. Granted, Benji used the shockwave to get over to the other side. They're going to make sure they get the pickup, the shakedown, and the extra. Nope, not even going to bother to shake down Nikeva. They said, we know where you are. Not going for the max damage, but Benji got over to the other side, boxed him in right away, made sure he owned the roof, both the walls, edit 150 in the back. I'm not even sure Nikeva knew he was there, so just completely taken advantage of. But now Toby and his partner are going to be forced back here. A little bit of gatekeeping action going on, trying to use hard mats and going up into Savage, but you're not going to win that build fight anytime soon. And honestly, this seems like a futile effort. Just pack it in, hoping to stay as long as they can. But Toby eating shots now. Caxi trying to get over, get into the zone, and offer his partner whatever reprieve he can. But they're already using hard mats to get in there. He eats back-to-back headshots from Savage in the high ground. But Savage gets dropped down by Toby. But no, Benji to the rescue. It's fine. No full conversion over. 3 elims coming out from Benji Fishy himself, and he gives you a little bit of the emote too, letting you know that sometimes you got to roll with those punches.
Yeah, he's saying, say it ain't so. It is so for Benji's trio. They're looking really strong. I just can't believe that it took them this long. I mean, we talked about a slow start, but goodness, this is a Game 5 situation. This is the last game, and they finally turn it up there into 5 and going into 6. So what? Hey, better late than never. I always say. At least they're here to play, and they're gonna.
Hey, we're the halfway part of the competition, man. We're heating up. We're good. We're right. We're in the cream. We're in that center filling right now. We got plenty of time. If this is the story arc, we're still in the rising action, all right? We got plenty to go on. We're not at the
haven't hit Act
climax,
3
not
yet.
quite
No.
the denouement. No,
No.
we got time. They're there.
got
And like we
time.
said, traditionally, they're a little bit of that slow starter. They're that novel you kind of got to chew into. They're that horror movie where you don't really kind of get that first jump scare or that first peek of the villain until you're like 15 minutes in. But then when he really ends up getting in there, you're like, oh, this was worth the wait, because you know what? These guys are scary once they finally show up on the big screen. But another trio who has been scary from moment one. This is no delay in terms of the jump scares. They're right in the horror villain behind the door, and it's a Nos, and he's in your box, he's in your closet, he's jumping in there, and he's sending you back to lobby. Nurix is going to enjoy the rest of his day.
You're getting
from
me
that
scared.
screen.
You're getting me scared. I know Halloween's just this weekend, but you literally gave me goosebumps talking about the villains and all the monsters out there. And we're talking about some of the biggest monsters, and you think that you may have beaten them. You think that you get the day's win, but you always gotta double tap Benji, Lechi, and Savage, because they're always gonna come back up, and they're always gonna fight to the last moments here. No matter when it happens, it is happening right here and right now, and they're trying to turn it up here in Game 6. Wow, 79 points. It's just like, what happened there from like game 1 through 4 doesn't even matter anymore. They could get the job done in 2.
Well, it's the same thing, and particularly if you're contested at Dooms every single week, you're not really worrying about Storm Surge, because you're either winning the fight and you're clear of it, you're losing the fight and you're back in the lobby, or you're fighting each other so much that you both have gone back and forth and you're not in it. Now all of a sudden they realize, hey, we need to loot right away and then sprint north at one of these two teams who are doing scavenger routes and take our advantage there. Now all of a sudden, once they're able to execute on the game plan, it takes one game for them to know the fact they have to do that. It takes maybe 2 or 3 games for them to kind of actually get that going. But then all of a sudden, Game 5 victory royale, and now Game 6 sitting on 5 elims already and hunting for number 6. And this is the type of Benji, Lechi, and Savage that we want to see in Europe. This is the Benji, Lechi, and Savage that can be dangerous in grand finals, but they need to secure top 8, and this is the way they're going to do it.
And we woke up the monster. We poked the bear. All the mana forces out the door. They are unleashed. And they are raining terror on the lobby. Vidil, Kylie, and Fast Roki was raining terror early on. Still sitting pretty solid. Taking a look coming into this match, top 4. Usually if you kind of start the day going into day 2 into the threshold, you tend to hold on. We are seeing a couple of trios kind of slip out of that top 8. And Kasperse and Zinni and Flixie are kind of just slipping out, but maybe they're stabilizing here. It's all about going into that momentum into day 2. You don't want to put your head on that pillow questioning yourself. You want to feel good. You want to know that the game plan that you're executing is solid. And I would say Vidil's trio is executing a great game plan, in that adjustment that Benji's trio is making, meaning they're going to have a really strong execution going forward here in the rest of the days. And now Vidil, though, now is going to have to execute a situation here, because now everyone box up as a moment to get some couple of beams here. Very dangerous situation as Vidil has the lobby to deal with. And we're taking a look here at Zone, as this is the first time in this day in Heat 1 that Stark Industries is going to make an appearance here and kind of influence how it's all going to go down.
Well, we saw a little bit. I believe it was in match number 3, but we're completely on top of it. So you didn't end up with the true Stark Industries upstate New York experience, where you have that sheer drop off, the acute angle coming from the ground and building out, the Polar Peak-esque if you played back in that day, where, hey, if you drop, you're just going to keep falling, and it's a long way down. You don't want to fall to that Myth or that Tim damage. You know, it's taken one too many on its way, as Link is going to tick over onto Advise there, who just got moved up onto the Wave Pro roster. Lolboom also picking up Otterworld Taco, so the aggression a little bit unhinged, and they're going to try and harpoon into it. It is Benji Fishy directly against it. We talked about it, having to do everything right in the final moments and covering your sides, and the momentum train was rolling, and just like that, the Clay Classic into the Thomas HD Special. The harpoon against a wooden wall insta-destroys it, followed up right away. You saw the tag on the wall, and Sancho is sitting here just shaking his head.
That was just plain nasty. Nasty, all capitalized. Maybe an extra couple Y's at the end of it, but Savage lets you now have to go on without Benji as he just gets put in the highlight reel. He just gets media posted. Here comes the impressions. Oh my goodness. Thomas HD and Trio. What a big time play. As now we're seeing that the rest of the lobby is kind of not knowing what just happened. The shockwaves will soon reach your ears or your eyes when it comes to the Twitterverse or Instagrams, whatever you want to post in the social medias. But now the lobby focuses on, we're showing the dangers of a vehicle push right there, rotation. But now we're seeing Mongrel, Mitro now all together have a nice metal base. We're flying over. We see Keffi's trios kind of set up here with Hardfine's trio, kind of set up in a nice height. But Zone does not pull their way as Zone 4 goes a little bit north and more than expected.
Yeah, Exponential, Astro, SMZ, and Mexi finding a little bit of room here right now. Exponential also previously known as Hardfine. Luckily for everyone involved, again, we're going to pull away from that sheer drop-off. You can see them tightrope rocking right along the line, going to drop down onto the low ground there and continue onto these old tarps, utilizing the natural cover, just kind of break the pressure that was coming out from Micho, Mongrel, and Tayson, who are perched up in hard mats, kind of on the priority of that fourth zone. So if the moving zone ends up pulling directly towards that outer edge, they're going to have a huge advantage. And actually, excuse me, we're directly over one of those moving edges. So that fifth zone is potentially going to be very key as to dictating the pace of this endgame.
What a slick rotation, man. No builds, walking along the concave, getting the elim as soon as they get into the safe zone, but that was just slick. And there's something powerful about a good old crouch as Astro, though, goes down to some explosiveness. Most likely that was a car that caused that huge explosion, so they're going to have to retreat just on the billy goat on the side of it to hold on to that natural terrain. But I like that rotation. No doubt that's going to be the ones that the Monster D faces would love to break down, and how simple and clean that was. And those are the kind of rotations that could set you up for a great in-game, as we're seeing Tayson, Mongrel, and Mitro getting set up for a strong in-game as well.
Those are the type of rotations you need if you want to survive the horror movie. You can't be the one sprinting into the basement. You can't be the one going straight through the cornfield. No, make sure you get around the outside, break the perimeter. Don't go into that unlit room by yourself, because you'll never know when you run into a monster like Mongrel, like Tayson, like Mitro, hanging out on the high ground, or like at the end of one of those tunnels we've seen. And boom, the priority zone for the fifth circle. You can see it in the bottom right-hand corner. Pulls directly on top of their base here. So the question is, the team across from them, can they hold them off? Who will end up winning the high ground? That's Sammy, Dennis, and Kajui right now opposite, and they're just going to build right on top of them. That's the aggression coming out from Mongrel, saying, if you want this high ground, you're going to have to take it away from me.
Right now, Mongrel, Tayson, and Mitro are king of the hill at the moment. And here are some kind of crash pads to try to overtake it. But we're seeing that what you can do is just all you have to do is pressure them and just get a couple of tags and shove them down as they go for the high play. And Sammy gets beamed by Mongrel, catching right there with some great tracking. And now, can we get a deja vu performance? It might be here, Sundown, because Mongrel, Tayson, and Mitro are looking really good. And all they have to do is just make sure that the rotations that are in the front side. But once they get up there and they have shockwaves and they have the ability to kind of vault their way to the other side, I'm just saying there's no stopping this trio right now. It's just a matter of moments. Already we saw Benji go down. They're going to need somebody out of nowhere to hack these Slayers down.
And that was just an awful high ground take attempt. If you go up like that, you have to either be ready to fire the shot when you're in range, or have your builds out and be building up. But instead, Tayson actually gets ambushed a little bit and taken out, separated from the two. And that was a Nos, Flick, and Thomas catching it out. And Tayson had dropped down to try and bring some heals back over to Mitro. You saw him throw the medkit away, but all of a sudden, they take it away, and Flick says that's the signal to go. Shockwaves out on the height. They're challenging right away, holding forward the W key is on, trying to get in the boxes, trying to rain them down because they know they're able to win out from height. And this is a 3v2 and make it a 3v1 as Mitro gets the quick edit, the triangle edit from behind the box. Flick with a flick shot, taking it down. And now it's all Anas, Thomas, and Flick to ride out the rest of the game. They have high ground. They have priority on the zone. We're about into placements with our top 18 trios remaining. 46 players up in the final game of the day here in EU.
Wow, and they get all the material resources from those eliminations, looking really strong. They have the height endurance to maintain, and now it's textbook. Now it's time to beam, and they're looking so high up at the moment as Zone's going to push more towards the east coast here on Stark Island. This is going to be a strong opportunity then for also to kind of separate themselves here, considering they are the first place going into this match. They could definitely put some separation considering they just took out Mongo, Mitro, and Tayson, who are sitting in second place.
You can see Flick trying to figure out who's still left from the backside of the zone.
And
finally gonna catch the lurker Mongrel. And most importantly, that's a big fat 0 on placement points there for Mongrel. Their trio dropping in 18th. So all of that time for no return on the investment. And they're going to be disappointed in that. But who's not disappointed? 7 eliminations right now for Flick, Thomas HD, and Anas, as they're just gonna ride this high ground out. And honestly, if they don't win this game with a number of eliminations and build up on that lead, I'll be shocked. And right as I say that, Flick drops down, cleans out Freemac, and continues tarping across.
This is such a highlight game for Thomas, Anas, and Flick, already taking out the big names. They're proving to the rest of the world and us here on the broadcast booth that they are big names as well. And they're doing it in such great fashion with some nice fundamental plays. And now they're just beaming, making sure that no one comes up to them, making sure that everyone still feels the pressure. Now the elevation goes up, so all the people on the low ground are going to have to switch layers as much as possible. And that's just going to put Thomas, Anas, and Flick in a better position as we're taking a look at who else is alive, who could overcome the dominant hold of Flick, Thomas, and Nas. And I'm not seeing that much people here, Sundown, to do that.
There's no one. They effectively, they have won this game. They have to choke this game away. The question is, how many eliminations can they get? When they took high ground away before they knocked out Mitro, they had 5. Now they're already pushing into 10, stretching that lead. And also, don't forget, every single bullet they're raining down is being unanswered. The zone is pulling back. They don't even have to worry about completing their tarp. That's going to unlock Flick. He's been throwing down shockwaves to use aggressively. We have our top 10 trios, but now it's about hunting. It's about opening up that lead. It's about trying to guarantee a top 8. We're into our top 10 now here in the final game of EU, and it's all Flick, Anas, and Thomas HD as they just open up the lead, open up the floodgates, and let the points come pouring in.
And they're opening up a big can of E-limbs, going to it right here, right now. They pretty much told everybody, not so fast. We're going to have a great performance in what I labeled the Nightmare Before Grands, one of the most dangerous heats put together. So many big names, so many decorated champions here fighting here today. As Flick gets some nice tags, he's going to go ahead and retreat. But that doesn't worry because Thomas and Anas have pretty much a strong position. And now Flick goes all the way to the front side, and he's just basically now has a moment to breathe because he's sitting in height and he can go back down. But hey, Wakey and Snappy, they're popping up in the elim feed. Vidal popping up as well. So there's a lot of trios out there solidifying their top 8 at the same time.
Yeah, trying to just continue to rise up. And also nice getting to see Flick, you know, a little bit off the leash. Generally, it's more Thomas and Anas who are going through. But he might have needed a little bit of a longer leash there as he missed Shockwave and threw himself out into the zone. So now just going to be on Thomas and Anas to clean it up. It's a 2v2 against Wakey and Snappy. They've been playing the low ground super low here in terms of HP and resources. But they have the crash pad if they want to go. It's going to be on Snappy to make a play and Wakey to just try and find and provide whatever cover he can. However, Thomas is more than a crash pad layer up. We're going to keep an eye on Anas as he's going to be the one to take the initial fight. already sitting on 13 eliminations. Can they make it a 15 victory royale after the first one? Anas looks for the first shot, not finding it, and all of a sudden, he's down, and now Thomas, can he find the 1v2? There's the one, but he hits the bouncer that his teammate just throw down. He has to find the Siphon. The Siphon will give him the HP lead. He has it, but the opponent turned out a shot. He doesn't have the lead. Thomas has to find a shot, and his opponent knows that. His opponent ran away, and Thomas HD and Co. with the 14 elims choke the last game in Snappy, Wakey, and Twitch. Michael FNR